Alright guys, attempting to do this with a camera. My tablet doesn't usually let me do this, but I think it might have to be a memory, yeah, I really do think it's a memory issue, honestly. As long as I delete all the videos off my tablet, one at a time. I don't know why that happens to me. My phone, like, I could make, like, 3 shorts, and it'll say, like, my memory is all used up and such, and that can't be true. That's just, I don't see how that's possible. Alright.
Let's start with this. So, the FBI came out and gave a press conference after the Trump shooting, and as I told you guys the other day, they kinda not so subtly threw the Secret Service directly under the bus. Watch this.
Law enforcement only knew he was up there until shots were fired. Is that what you're hearing?
So that is the assessment this time.
So are you surprised that a sniper was able to fire off a handful of shots at the former president? I mean,
again, we're still working through the security apparatus that the.
So, initially they said get down, but then they let him poke his head out and do the whole like fist in the air. And yeah, they just were negligent about not having enough people to guard Trump in the area. Like, there was a lot of roofs that weren't being watched, and when there was something pointed out, they just totally neglected to really act on it. Now, initially, I was like, why would they look away from their post? Trump's there, and it's their duty to make sure, like, they're just, I don't know why they'd listen to some dude in the crowd necessarily, but I guess it made sense all along, I do think, okay, rambling too much.
Return had in place. What potentially happened, that there's going to be a long investigation into exactly what took place and how the individual was able to get access to the location, what type of weapon he had, all that. It is really days, weeks, and months of investigation.
they only get off like 4 or 5 shots.
It is surprising, but again, to get the truth, all the details of that will come out later in the investigation.
Back to the perimeter of this building. I need some difficult people to understand that this building is very high vantage point, some 100 meters away from where this is happening, isn't part of that market. What goes into that conversation over what is in and out and why wouldn't that be?
Again, the Secret Service really needs to answer that question. They conduct the initial site survey. They do the initial security assessments and determine where the different security locations should be, and they're the ones who are in charge of securing the scene. We, along with other state and local assets, are there to support the Secret Service and their mission.
So, in other words, look, bro, it wasn't me.
It
wasn't me. I didn't do anything wrong. The FBI didn't do anything wrong. We're not even in charge here. The Secret Service is in charge. So any sort of questions you have about the massive failure, you better direct those questions to them. Damn. Look, one of the pieces of speculation early on is that the reason this guy was able to get a shot off at Trump is that at these rallies, you have all these different levels of security and protection. So you may have local police and state police and the Secret Service and some other federal agents from other agencies. And so it's sort of like a giant mishmash of all these different layers of protection. And in a scenario like that, if it's not like fully centralized and it's a little decentralized, things can get lost in the noise, man. Things can get lost in the noise. So this is the FBI being like, don't look at me, bro. Ask the Secret Service. And by the way, at this press conference, you know who wasn't there? The Secret Service. So, I don't know, sort of like they're hiding because they know perhaps they massively screwed up. All right, now I also got to give you this. A senior Secret Service source familiar with the planning of the Trump rally tells NBC News that the roof where the shooter was located was a well-known high-priority vulnerability. Okay, listen to this.
And at this hour, we do have some new information for you. A senior Secret Service source familiar with the planning of yesterday's event tells NBC News that the roof where the shooter was located was a well-known, high-priority vulnerability. It was identified just the day before during a...
Yes, we all know this was negligence. Like, the fact that there was somebody that close by and nobody was willing to get him or see him, like, that person never should have even been able to be on the roof. I have my speculation, and I'll say it at the end of the video, I guess. It's not too shocking, but it is still really fucked up. Especially in this time of division and conspiracy theories running amok about the media, they do have biases, but it's just, I don't know, Trump got into office and suddenly everybody just went insane. So the fact that this assassination attempt happened is really like the true possible radicalizing moment that could start up another coup or something, for all we know.
Security walkthrough. We've also just learned that there were 2 counter-sniper teams on site and that the counter-sniper did not need approval to shoot.
So the roof was a high-priority vulnerability, their words, not mine. And the counter-snipers did not need approval to shoot. Everybody's breaking out their tinfoil hat right now. Everybody and their mother is breaking out their tinfoil hat at the moment when they hear that, right? Now, I'm not saying that's the right reaction. I'm not saying that's the wrong reaction. I'm just saying
been, no matter what,
that's going to be everybody's reaction.
Now.
Is like,
conspiracy
this seems
land.
like a security failure. That's some basic 101 level type stuff.
Telling NBC News that prior protocols were not followed. The FBI now says the alleged shooter, 20-year-old Thomas Nathan Crook.
We're going to get to more on him in a minute. I also wanted to give you this one. So this news came out just yesterday. The man who was killed at the Trump rally has been identified as former fire chief for Buffalo Township, Corey Comparatori. Apparently, he was shielding his daughter from the bullets when he died.
It's insane this attack had to bring others into it. Now, there could have been multiple shooters, and the Secret Service might have been shooting into the crowd just recklessly. Like, we saw how reckless they were to not really have the right radius of protection for Trump. So, I mean, this might be normal that this was not a very well set up situation.
Quote, the Pennsylvania Trump rally claimed the life of my brother, Corey Comparatori. The hatred for one man took the life of the one man we loved the most. He was a hero that shielded his daughters, his wife, and girls. Just lived through the unthinkable and unimaginable, his sister said on Facebook. My baby brother just turned 50 and had so much life left to experience. Hatred has no limits and love has no bounds. Pray for my sister-in-law, nieces, my mother, sister, me, and the nieces and nephews, as this feels like a terrible nightmare. But we know it is our painful reality. So here's a picture of the guy. This is the guy right here. He's the one who died. Now, my understanding is that there's at least one other who is still in critical condition. At least as of the recording of this right now, we have not gotten that person's name. Now, I also will say, I see a lot of stuff online where, like, they're digging up this guy's tweets and this guy's, like, posts on Facebook and things of that nature.
To be fair, I feel like that's just cancel culture anyways. Like, people are digging up people's past no matter what. And as a criminal, I think this just makes sense to figure out what affiliation and how this dude was radicalized and the yada yada behind this guy. Like, I think it's just, you need somebody to figure out what's going on, cancel culture or not. So, I don't know. I don't think it's illegal to go rummaging through, or weird at all to go rummaging through this dude's like social media and such.
And naturally, as you would expect, for a Trump supporter, he said a lot of things that, let's be nice in the moment given the circumstance and say a lot of the things he said were very ugly, right? He said very ugly things. He had some very ugly positions. Having said all that, I don't care, right? Like, a human being died, and that is bad. I am against murder. I think murder is a bad thing. I think murder is a wrong thing from a moral perspective and an ethical perspective. And I don't give a shit if somebody has horrific opinions across the board. If there is an act of aggression made against that person and they end up losing their life, that's immoral. That's unethical. That's not right. That is something we should all universally across the board condemn. So I don't really care that he was an asshole with bad opinions. My guess is most of the people who are at a Trump rally, if not all of them, right, are going to be assholes with bad opinions.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they should die in gunfire, right? I mean, I'm explaining the most basic things in the world, but nonetheless, I had to point it out. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm.
So, why would this happen, in my opinion, is basically Trump has burned pretty much all bridges. He's pretty much, like, broke almost, like he's bankrupt. He pretty much treats everyone around him like garbage, and to associate with him at this point is just to almost be complicit with a type of fascism. So there's an element of this where I don't want to say karma, but it's a response even by an ex-Trump supporter, I guess. You know, they're eating their own, so to speak, within the conspiracy theories and more radicalizing views that the shooter might have already had than Trump. Like, I don't see how more radicalized and racist and insane with your rhetoric you could be than, like, they're poisoning the blood of our nation. Like, blood, Trump said that, so I really, it's kind of unfortunate to rationalize it like this, and the only reason I don't justify this happening, this political violence, has nothing to do with the law at all. So we are, like, we live in a culture of mass gun violence and severe division, and it's only getting worse and heightening, and conservatives really do think it was just rigged against them all along. So I can sort of see how this event right now, this attempted assassination, is a game changer. You know, Trump already got his coup. He pretty much got away with the Stormy Daniels stuff. He pretty much, like, played the big lie and said, no, it wasn't him, they're lying, and he got away with all of these felony charges, and he was still able to run for president. So there's a lot of weird, I mean, the media is lying and biased, and they definitely don't like Trump at all, but, and the way to do this is not to say, yeah, because that'll just radicalize the base that was already on standby to beginning. So obviously you should prepare yourself, but I wouldn't, like, you know, go advocating for this type of violence, because it's not politicians that'll start using this rhetoric more and more. It's the citizenry, and we've seen it. You know, they are sparked up by certain politicians like Trump and DeSantis, though DeSantis never had the radicalized base that Trump had. He started too early with that. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one, guys.